Well, good afternoon and welcome everyone to this edition of High Bank Fury. I'm Roy J. Akers, your host. With me is Bob Francis. He is the publisher, host, reporter for GoFullThrottle.net. Good afternoon, Bob.
Roy, great to be with you. Excited to be talking about the 2026 NASCAR season.
Yeah, and I am too. I've been kind of stoked since they settled the lawsuit a month ago, and pretty soon, just like in NASCAR going at 200 miles an hour at Talladega, that whole lawsuit will be in a rearview mirror. But in a way,
Right.
I'm kind of glad it's not because I do think that the teams are really going to be reinvigorated. Some politics was played during that whole thing in a good way. Think about it like this. This isn't really our topic tonight, but you got Roger Penske, you got Rick Hendrick, and they both were called. They were going to be called to testify. And in the political world, is you say you're doing one thing, and then nobody really knows what your real position is. And in the case of those two guys, they didn't have to testify, and they got all the rewards that all the other owners did, including Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin. That is the, I mean, that is the way to do it, my friend.
That's right. Yeah. Don't have to have that low risk, but get the high reward and still be able to maintain that appearance of neutrality and being a team player and we're all one big happy family. But let Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin do the heavy lifting along with Front Row Motorsports and get that result. I'd say that's a huge win for
Yeah.
the big team owners.
Yeah, they spent all Michael Jordan's Nike money, so and that that is a topic I do want to revisit at some point, and how that could really help their team going forward, the power structure and the sport and that. But today, what we're taking a look at is that Bowman Gray, it was right around the corner. And I took a look at some footage today of last year's race because I wanted to remember what the racing was like in that. I wanted to be refreshed, and I just wanted to see some NASCAR footage. And what do you think are some key storylines or types of racing that we're going to see at Bowman Gray happening in the exhibition in just 2 weeks?
Well, as you know, Roy, I come from the dirt track background, and most of the NASCAR regional tracks, dirt track racing, and sprint car racing, everything that happens in the dirt world involves heats. Usually, you have to work your way through the heats to make the B main, and then the top finishers in the B main might transfer to the A main. So, just the whole structure of how NASCAR runs the Clash. When it was at the LA Coliseum, I was there for every one of those events covering it for Go Full Throttle. That was really thrilling because for me, it's a flashback to my younger years in the sport. And then moving the Clash to Bowman Gray makes it even more exciting because you have the double whammy, the double king hit of all the legacy that comes with the history of Bowman Gray and NASCAR short track racing, along with the top stars in the sport working their way through those heat races to try to make the main. And that was super exciting last season, and I bet it's going to be even more exciting because they've worked on the short track package. I look for even more exciting racing this year.
Yeah, I'm hoping that myself. I did see a lot of the dump and go that happens in this format of racing, but it was nice to see that on pavement and watching the cars slide around. I do like what you said. I like how you had your machine, the driver of the machine, and your team. You have to advance or you get left behind. So that to me, that's kind of a cool thing. In the first year of the Clash, when it was at the LA Coliseum, I loved the format that year, and I thought subsequent formats to me weren't quite as exciting. But here at Bowman Gray, and the bottom line for me was just looking at that beautiful old school stadium. I'm not going to call it a high school stadium because that's no, but I mean, the one level, the rows, there couldn't have been more than 30 rows there, and the intimacy and the feel of the track that you would get and the roar horsepower of the engines and that
Right.
were flat out fantastic. And so that to me is a great thing. So for everybody out there, Bowman Gray is going to happen. We're going to have some more plugs on that. We're going to be talking more about that in just a couple of weeks. What we're going to do on the other side of this break is that we're going to answer a question. Do we think Bowman Gray is always going to be an exhibition, or is there a chance it could be on the Cup schedule? I have no idea on this. I don't know where it's going to go, but we're going to find out next. This is Roy J. Akers for the High Bank Fury podcast. We are found multiple times weekly where we talk to NASCAR drivers, cover stories, and those that shape the sport. This is not just another podcast. We get exclusive content, talk fantasy NASCAR racing, and spill the news before other media outlets drop their take. We are on all podcast channels, the YouTube channel, and can be found on skyviewsports.net. Check out High Bank Fury, the podcast, today. Everybody, we talked about Bowman Gray and what's going to make that very special. With me is Bob Francis from GoFullThrottle.net. Bowman Gray, do you think it's ever going to be anything more than an exhibition race on the NASCAR schedule where the teams and that kind of get that mulligan to kind of get everything down, the pit team speed, the drivers, and just kind of have a little bit of fun before the grind of the season?
I'm not sure about that, Roy. I think, part of the calculation is how many butts can you put in seats? And that's a limited
Yeah.
capability of seating there at Bowman Gray. Perfect for an exhibition race, perfect for the clash type format. I think there is the possibility, however, of maybe not being a full cup points pain race, but what about the All-Star race at Bowman Gray Stadium? That opens up a few more possibilities of how to leverage the history of that NASCAR short track racing, but escalate it out of the clash format and then move it into maybe the all-star race. Small track maybe presents some challenges about the number of cars you could have in the field for an all-star race, but if you ran a bracket type elimination to get to the final field as they do with the clash, that might be something. But hey, Ben Kennedy has surprised us so many times over the last few years. I mean, who thought in 2026 we'd be racing on a naval base in San Diego? He pulled that off. So I don't put anything for granted with Ben Kennedy. He's very original thinker. He's trying to expand the sport and bring in new markets. And there is this whole push within NASCAR and their messaging this year to reach back out to the old school fans and bring them in. What better way to do that, Roy, than to have Bowman Gray on the schedule for something addition to the clash?
To kind of piggyback on your thought, it's nice that the All-Star race is at Dover this year. I'm sure Dover would like to get back, get that race back as a points race. But I think if NASCAR is going to change the end of the season race, I think the All-Star, race could probably change. It changes venues in the NBA, Major League Baseball every year. Heck,
Right.
the NFL is even went from Honolulu. Why would you change Honolulu to go to Florida? And there's very few times I would ever say something like that because I love Florida as well. But Hawaii's just, come on now, you got but anyway, yeah, let's see if they go ahead and they change that. One of the things that we're going to do probably in the future show just before the season starts, Bob, is that I took a look at an article on the 5 biggest predicted races in NASCAR this year. I don't want to talk about any of the venues in that, but I think that all 5 of those, they all made sense in the article, even in the order that they put them, I thought were great. And is that something you'd be interested in tackling?
Oh, that would be fantastic. I think that plays right into what we like to talk about on Motorsports Nation at Go Full Throttle is that anticipation because it takes us right into the fans thinking and, they're making a decision. Am I going to travel to that race, buy tickets? Is it in driving distance from where I live? There's all kinds of factors. So, yes, a show on those 5 most anticipated races would be great.
Yeah, and also to piggyback, if I can tease our fans that are watching right now, is that NASCAR has pledged when Steve Phelps was with NASCAR, the dearly departed Steve Phelps and Steve Donahue, and that they talked about that NASCAR wants to make sure that they bring back some of the retro tracks that they're bringing back, as well as having new places that NASCAR is going, as you just alluded to, with the Chicago Street Race now going to San Diego. The NASCAR went to Mexico, and they're going to go back at some point. I mean, they
Sure.
got World Cup there in Mexico City, and I think it's a logistical nightmare, to have anything more than the World Cup there and security and all that. So, Bob, where can we find you? Because you have some of the best content in NASCAR coverage.
Well, thank you, Roy. And we're always on the internet at gofullthrottle.net. You can find us on X at Bob Full Throttle. That's my personal X account where we talk about race predictions. And of course, we have the app. And Motorsports Nation is the show that we do. Roy's a guest over on Motorsports Nation sometimes, and we're just talking about not only all the news and how the media covers NASCAR, and try to bring some stories from the garage that fans can use as they're playing NASCAR fantasy, picking their 5 drivers each week, or for those that wager on NASCAR and the betting apps. We try to bring what sort of information would be relevant, especially that late breaking news after practice and qualifying, if someone's going to wager or set up their fantasy team. We try to really speak to what's that late breaking news that's going to impact the predictions for the race, Roy.
I'm Roy Akers, SkyviewSports.net. Also, I'm the host of High Bank Fury, the podcast. And so what we've had all kinds of awesome guests. We got a couple phenomenal ones coming up before the start of the season. We're also going to be catching up with Christopher Bell, and that's going to happen at Echo Park Speedway, and that's going to be in our next edition of High Bank Fury.
From start to finish of the weekend, that was just a full execution.
Brian Blaney officially 1.3 seconds back in second. Denny Hamlin third. Joey Logano fourth. Bubba Wallace fifth. Ross Chastain, Austin Cindric, Tyler Reddick, rookie candidate Shane Van Gisbergen, and Chris Buescher round out the top.
Kevin, I think he's using the wall to keep him going around there. How about that? Yes! That's a burnout.